Hello, happy hour crafters. We are going to make a cute country style Christmas card, and I pretty much laid out the supplies that we're going to use. We have cardstock. We're going to use crumb cake and cherry cobbler, and then I have just a little piece of DSP from the Festive Farmhouse DSP, and we're also going to be using a little bit of this silver cardstock. I have Early Espresso, an ink pad. I have a Merry Christmas stamp. I have a little bit of twine. I am going to use a sponge. I did bring out the dauber, but I think I'm going to go with the sponge instead. But I just kind of wanted to show you that you can use different items to do a little bit of shading. We are going to use the corner punch, mini glue dots, and also some snail. So we're going to go ahead and set this aside. And what I can do is give you the size of the cardstock. So if we go with the base itself, we're 8.5 by 5 1/4. And then we have a cherry cobbler piece that is 4 1/4 by 5 inches. And then the designer series paper, the Festive Farmhouse, is 3.5 by 3 3/4, and that's going to set right there. Then we have another piece of the crumb cake, which is 2 1/4 by 3 3/4, and then another cherry cobbler, 2 inches by 3.5 inches, and then we have a small piece of the crumb cake, which is 1 inches by 3.5, and this is the one we're going to stamp on. Now the silver cardstock that I have it at 2.5 by 6 inches. And I'll kind of explain to you why I cut this down when we are actually using the big shot. So we're going to set this aside for right now. Now what we're going to do with the base itself, I do want to score. So I'm going to get my Simply Scoring tool out. Again, I said this is an 8.5 by 5 1/2. I'm going to score at 4 1/4. And this will just give it its nice seam so that we can actually fold it. It's nice and crisp. So we can just put that away. And then I'm going to take my snail and I'm going to attach this cherry cobbler base just by the edges here. And it pretty much gives it just kind of about a 1/4 inch all the way around. So it's easy to kind of line up. And then we're going to use the designer series paper. This is such pretty paper. Very country, very simple. I love this plaid. And again, I cut it down a 1/4 inch smaller, and we're just going to put it at the top. There we go. All right, and then basically I'm going to layer these two pieces, and I'm going to center them right here. All right, I'll put this first piece down. If you're centering, you can kind of follow the lines from the plaid. There we go. And the same with this piece. And again, just a 1/4 inch smaller, so you know you've got about a 1/4 inch all the way around. There we go. Okay, we're going to set this aside for now, and then why don't we get this small little piece out, and we're going to do just a little bit of stamping. And I have a Merry Christmas stamp. And I'm just going to set it over to the left. There we go. Because I'm going to use my quarter punch Turn it upside down so you can see where you're punching. I'm going to center it. I think that's a little too long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it back down a little bit more. There we go. So again, I am going to be placing that right there, but not yet. I think I'll set this aside. I can put the ink pad away. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get the Big Shot out. Bring the Big Shot over. Make some room here. We're going to get our magnetic plate out. And then we are going to get our lettering out. And we are going to punch out the word joy. And if you can see, it just fits on here. Okay, now the reason why I cut this down, and I think there's a lot of you that may have the plates like this that are very well used. You can see they've been used quite a bit. Well, when you run it through with this silver cardstock, the markings actually kind of tend to show up, and that really kind of bothers me. So as long as I cut it down so I'm only using the piece that I'm going, enough room for the letters, then I'm okay. It's not going to mark up the whole, let's say the 6-inch sheet of silver cardstock. So I'm just going to cut it down to there. All right, we're going to run that through. There we go. Our letters, okay. But we're not done with the Big Shot yet. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to use my old platform. This is the one that had the different levels. I'm going to use the very first plate here because I am going to use the corrugated folder. And what I have found is that if we use the regular plate for these thick folders, it actually cuts through this silver cardstock just a little too much, and then the actual silver cardstock starts to break up. This one is just a little bit of a lighter touch, and so it won't break them up. And so we're going to run this through. Oop, I need my plate. And put that away. And you'll see what we have when we get done here. And run it back. All right. And then what we have is these very pretty corrugated letters. All right, let me move these out of the way. Move this out of the way. Okay, and so we have these beautiful corrugated letters. Look at that. And so the plan is actually going to attach them right here. I love that. Now what I didn't do was I was going to sponge around the edges, and I'm going to do that just a little bit before I want to sponge around here, just to give it a little bit of depth. And I'm going to do the same with the card itself. fold it. Okay, there we go. That's just going to give it just a little bit of depth there. And like I mentioned, you could either use just a cut up piece of the sponge, or you could use your dauber. Alright. Now with the letter Joy, I'm going to use my mini dimensionals to attach to the back. Right, last one. There we go. All right. So I'm going to start with the O first. What I do is center it first. And I'm going to center that right here. Then I'll add the J. There we go. And the Y. Oops. There we go. All right, now we'll get back to this Merry Christmas. Now what I did is I didn't pop this up. I just decided to attach it. Attach it right there. And then I took a couple pieces of, actually 3 pieces of the twine. Now you have a couple options here again too. This is your linen thread that you could slice up, do about 3 pieces and create a nice bow. Or you can take your burlap ribbon, which is the burlap ribbon. And what I did is let me take a little piece and show you, is that you can actually tear it apart and just pull these pieces out. And that way you've got pieces to use for bows. Very, very simple. So that's what I did here. And I grabbed 3 of them. There's 3 here somewhere. All the same size. And so I just created a bow. And there we go. Oh, not bad for the first time. And I just attached it right here using glue dots. Glue dot, just fold it down just a little so it doesn't show. And then you're going to attach it right there. Look at how pretty that is. Take that out of the way there. Isn't that pretty? So now you've got a little corrugated joy on this pretty DSP. I just think that is beautiful. So I hope you like this. Cheers.